This didn't happen to me. Rather, it happened to a friend of mine. In a, let's say, a wealthy area of Guadalajara, he told me that a few years ago, many people fell victim to a demon. He said these dark entities take different forms and can do many things, affecting all of reality at their whim to obtain something specific they're seeking. I think this is one of the strangest stories because I don't understand what this entity was looking for. It turns out that one day there was an emergency call. Several neighbors were calling an emergency number, asking for help to go to this high economic status neighborhood because in a house belonging to neighbors well loved by the community, someone was being tormented. When asked if they had proof that they were witnessing an attack, they answered no. They weren't seeing anything, but they could hear people screaming and feared that some armed individuals had entered the property and were harming the family. These calls continued for more than 45 minutes, one after another, with some neighbors reporting they heard children's voices, others hearing adults' voices, or even a group of people. It was very strange because their accounts didn't match. A patrol was mobilized after the first call, but it wasn't nearby. It arrived about 45 minutes later after that first call. When they arrived at the location, they noticed that most of the neighbors were not outside their houses, but were peering out through their windows. They signaled to them to take cover. Instantly upon exiting the car, they were met with screams and wails from numerous people. This led them to think, this must be an armed group. This is serious. Many people are being harmed. One of them immediately called emergency services and said, their dialogues, protocols, numbers, I don't know what. But it was clear that it was an emergency that needed support. The other, via radio, is also asking for backup, and finally they're told that several units will be sent, but to wait. The backup will take at least 25 minutes. Because of the screams they were hearing, one says, "No, I can't wait." He says, "I don't know what's going to happen, but I have to do something." So he walks toward the house, realizes the door is open, and doesn't think twice. He enters. The other, pale, doesn't want to follow him, but knows that if he lets him go inside alone, he surely won't return. So he decides to enter behind him. As they walked through the property, they tried to reassure each other, yet they encountered something extremely strange. The house was in perfect order. Nothing was out of place, disordered, or broken. The rooms were pristine, a stark contrast to the chaos suggested by the sounds they were hearing. They focused on pinpointing the source of the sound, which seemed to emanate from the left side of the hallway. Both officers, in agreement, moved toward it and discovered a door that led to a basement. "It's unusual for these houses to have basements," one officer remarked, noting the door's downward slope. "This must lead to a basement. Let's open it." Upon opening, they found the basement well lit. "We're the police. We're armed. Stop what you're doing and come out with your hands up. Reinforcements are already on their way," they announced. Yet the screams persisted unaltered by their presence. "What's happening?" one officer wondered aloud. "Might it be a recording?" suggested the other, puzzled by the lack of response. They shout again, "We're the police, we're armed. We need you to come out." With no response, one officer muses, "Maybe this is someone's idea of a sick joke." The other officer comments, "None of this adds up. The house is in perfect condition, and the door was open." With their guns drawn, they descend the stairs to the basement's bottom, noticing a change in the sound's direction. Outside, the screams seemed to emanate from every room, but inside they could pinpoint the noise to a specific corner of the basement, as if the sounds were concentrated there. When they turn to that corner, there's a huge dog with red eyes that is panting, but no panting sound is heard. It's all those screams it's emitting from inside its mouth. They see that, and then one says, "What the fuck?" And when he says that, he points the gun at the dog. The dog stands on two legs, and the dog's eyes change as if it knows what's happening. He fires 2 shots at once, and with the shots, the lights go out. One tries to find his flashlight, the other is aiming and says, "Let me turn on some light." For them, it felt eternal, A minute and a half, when suddenly lights came in. They spun around to face the source of the light. The entrance was now illuminated, but the previous cacophony of dog sounds and screams had vanished into silence. Framed in the doorway stood 2 police officers, their weapons drawn. "Armed forces here," they announced authoritatively. "Stop what you're doing and come out with your hands up." "We are your colleagues, we're armed, we're going to raise our hands now. Don't shoot," they replied. Illuminating the scene with their powerful flashlights, they saw the 2 officers and commanded, "Drop the weapons, we need to identify you." The officers complied perfectly, dropping their guns and adhering to the protocol. Upon further inspection, the basement was found to be completely empty, with absolutely nothing out of place, except for the 2 holes in the wall, one of which contained the bullets from one of the officers' guns. They come out of there and then they start explaining what happened, and the guys who came in at the end, the ones who pulled them out, say, "2 hours, we've been looking for you for 2 hours, where the hell were you?" And they replied, "What? No, that's impossible, it's been only 5 minutes since we arrived and went into the basement." The other officer informed them that they had been looking for them for almost 2 hours, having waited outside the house for approximately 30 minutes before entering. Inside, they had been wandering for more than an hour without any clue of their presence until they came across the door. They had no idea what happened during that time. To them, it felt like only 5 minutes. There was a loss of consciousness, and the specifics of the event remain unknown. I'm also at a loss about what the entity was searching for in that house, or why it was making those sounds. The family, who was on vacation, had no clue about the events unfolding in their home. One of those police officers was my friend. He is the one who told me this story. Tragically, he fell ill within a week of the incident and passed away in less than 2 weeks. I'm convinced that what he encountered inside was the cause of his illness. I didn't go to the forest alone. I don't go to the forest alone, and I'm very careful about that. Not because of supernatural reasons, but because you're in the middle of places where you might encounter something that maybe one person alone can't handle, but maybe 2 can handle it better. It's my rule. Going to the forest alone isn't advisable. I went with a friend. This forest has something very special. It's near a certain mountainous area we like to go to, and there's a part of the path where you have to be very careful because the underbrush doesn't let you see that there's a ravine ahead, and there are several spots, several areas that are like this. We know the area well, having visited many times without incident. As careful and professional individuals who enjoy sports, we don't take unnecessary risks. I think I had been to that place about 15 times when this happened. I went with a friend who usually goes to this place and we camp. When we arrived, there was something very strange, a very sudden change in the atmosphere and the temperature. When we arrived, it was slightly warm, and then it started to look like a kind of mist, and started to get colder and colder, to the point where we were steaming when we spoke. Vapor was coming out of our mouths because our surroundings were freezing. We, as we have occasionally experienced sudden weather changes, went prepared. This was good at the beginning. However, it was strange because in that place it had never happened like this. We always check weather forecasts, and even when the area is distant, the weather roughly matched with nearby areas. In the end, we were a little uneasy, but nothing more. We began to move forward, and as we were walking, exploring some new path, opening a new trail, I had this strange feeling. I got distracted, heard footsteps or something coming from my left side. Then I turned, and when I tried to catch up because my friend was ahead, acting as a guide and leading the way, I could no longer see him. Then I thought, oh well, it shouldn't take me too long to find him, he should be right ahead. I started to look around and to walk a little faster, and again after a little while I heard footsteps from my left side but a bit further to the left, and there he was, walking. Then I turned and began to follow him. He kept walking and I called out to him, but he didn't turn. I thought, how strange. Maybe he's as distracted as I was a moment ago. How odd that he doesn't turn. I called out to him loudly again, but nothing. I called out loudly once more, and still nothing. Thinking he might have some problem and need me, I started to move a bit faster. Suddenly, 2 hands grabbed me by the shoulders and yanked me backwards. I panicked, let out a scream, fell to the ground and saw my friend above me looking at me and saying, "What are you doing, stupid?" I said, "What happened? I was following you. Where did you come from?" He says, "Look where you were going," and there was one of the cliffs of these ravines less than half a meter away. I don't know what I was seeing, but what I was looking at took the form of my friend and wanted me to go that way. I said, "We can't stay here. I have no idea what happened. I don't know why I kept seeing a path when it's evident that there's nothing there." I felt drowsy, like in a dream state. My friend tells me, "I was shouting and shouting and shouting and shouting at you." He says, "If you hadn't shouted my name before, I think you wouldn't have been stopped." That's when I understood the seriousness of the situation. We couldn't stay in that place any longer, without having any idea what had caused such a convincing illusion. It was clear that what I had seen took the form of my friend intending to lead me towards the ravine. We quickly moved away from that area, with a newfound respect and caution for the inscrutable mysteries of the forest. That experience taught us the importance of never underestimating the unknown and always being prepared for the unexpected. Although we continue to explore and enjoy nature, we never forget that lesson and always remember to look twice before following any figure in the forest, especially if it seems to lead you toward danger.